7 thugs stormed the diner, their eyes landing on the woman sitting alone. To them, she was just another easy target. They never saw the Sentinel forged in silent duty. In 5 minutes, they'd learn what real honor looks like. The oppressive July sun beat down on Chicago's Little Italy, making the asphalt shimmer. The air, thick with the scent of garlic and baking bread, was a living thing, buzzing with the rhythm of a Saturday afternoon in 2025. For Seraphina Gallo, the sensory overload was a stark contrast to the profound silence she called home. She pushed open the door to the veteran's haven, a bell above it chiming a cheerful welcome. Cool, conditioned air washed over her, a blessed relief. The diner was a sanctuary, a time capsule of service and sacrifice. Its walls were a mosaic of black and white photographs of soldiers with impossibly young faces, framed medals whose colors had softened with time, and American flags folded into tight, respectful triangles. Behind the counter, a massive stars and stripes hung, a silent testament to the diner's soul. The place smelled of sizzling bacon and strong coffee, a comforting aroma that felt like a warm embrace. Sarah was 30, with sharp, intelligent features and eyes the color of a stormy sea. Calm on the surface, but with a depth that held unseen currents. Her ash-blonde hair was pulled back from her face into a severe, disciplined bun, not a single strand out of place. She wore a simple gray hoodie and dark jeans, blending in effortlessly. Yet, she couldn't hide the ramrod straightness of her spine or the deliberate, economical way she moved. It was the posture of someone whose entire existence was defined by precision. She wasn't a tourist. She was a sentinel, one of the elite few who guard the tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. Her life was a metronome of 21 steps, a 21-second pause, and an unwavering commitment to a sacred duty. This trip was a rare exhale, a chance to feel the anonymous freedom of a city. But the Sentinel was always on watch. She chose a booth in the far corner, her back to the wall, an instinct so deeply ingrained it was second nature. Her eyes swept the room, cataloging exits, patrons, and potential threats before she even realized she was doing it. She slid onto the worn vinyl, her fingers tracing the rim of a water glass. In her pocket, her thumb found the cool, familiar metal of her Tomb Guard identification badge. A grounding presence. "You look 1,000 miles away, kiddo." Sarah looked up. A man in his early 60s with a kind, weathered face and a shock of silver hair stood by her table, a damp cloth in his hand. A faded Marine Corps tattoo, the eagle, globe, and anchor, was visible on his forearm. His left arm was held at a slightly unnatural angle, the ghost of an old injury. "Just taking it all in," Sarah replied, her voice soft but clear. "I heard you have the best Italian beef in the city." He let out a hearty laugh. "That's Maria's magic. My wife. She's the heart of this place. I'm Frank Russo, by the way." He leaned in conspiratorially. "You military? You got that look. The one that says you don't miss a thing." Sarah offered a small, non-committal nod. "Army. Served for a bit." Frank's eyes lit up with recognition. "Knew it. Marine myself. Iraq, 91. Maria was a combat nurse over there. This place," he said, gesturing around the room. "It's our way of keeping the faith. A safe harbor for vets." Before Sarah could respond, a woman with warm, perceptive eyes and graying hair tied back in a practical ponytail emerged from the kitchen. Maria Russo. She carried a plate piled high with a glorious, dripping sandwich. "Frank, stop interrogating our customers," she teased, her smile genuine. She set the plate down in front of Sarah. "Here you go, hon. Extra giardiniera, just the way it should be." "Thank you, ma'am," Sarah said, the politeness automatic. She took a bite, and for a fleeting moment, the sentinel within her stood down. The flavors were an explosion of savory beef, spicy pickled vegetables, and bread that was the perfect balance of soft and crusty. It was real, grounded, but the peace was fragile. The bell above the door jingled again, and a teenager, the Russo's grandson, Tommy, burst in from the back, his face ashen. He rushed to Maria, whispering urgently, Maria's warm expression froze, replaced by a mask of hardened resolve. Frank's jaw clenched, and a low growl rumbled in his chest. "Not today," he muttered. "Not in my place." Sarah set her sandwich down. The taste of peace vanished from her tongue. Her senses flared, every nerve ending humming with alert-level readiness. Something was wrong. The Sentinel was back on duty. The bell chimed again, but this time the sound was different. It wasn't a cheerful jingle. It was a harsh, discordant clang, as if the door had been thrown open with violent intent. The lively chatter of the diner died instantly, replaced by a thick, suffocating silence. 7 men filled the doorway, their silhouettes blocking the bright afternoon sun. They didn't walk in. They swaggered, an invading force bringing a palpable chill into the warm room. Their leader stepped forward, and the shadows parted to reveal Vincenzo Vinny Moretti. He was in his mid-40s, dressed in an impeccably tailored black suit that seemed out of place in the humble diner. His dark hair was slicked back, and a thin, white scar cut a jagged path across his left cheek, twitching slightly as his lips curled into a predatory smirk. His eyes, cold and dark as polished river stones, swept the room with an air of arrogant ownership. His 6 cronies fanned out behind him. They were younger, broader, a collection of cheap leather jackets, garish shirts, and snarling expressions. Tattoos snaked up their necks like thorny vines, and their hands were either crossed defiantly over their chests or resting casually near the waistbands of their pants, hinting at concealed weapons. They were a pack of wolves, and Vinny was their alpha. A young family at a table near the door quickly gathered their children, throwing cash on the table before scurrying out, their eyes wide with fear. An elderly couple in another booth seemed to shrink, trying to become invisible. Sarah remained perfectly still. Her hands rested flat on the table, her posture relaxed but ready. From her vantage point, she had a clear view of the entire scene. Her mind, trained in the art of observation, processed the information with detached clarity. Leader in the center. 2 flanking him are the primary muscle. The 4 in the back are the reserve, less confident. They're watching the leader for cues. Sloppy formation. Overconfident. Vinny's polished shoes clicked menacingly on the linoleum floor as he approached the counter. "Frankie, my friend," he crooned, his voice a silky threat. "Rent's due. Time to make your contribution to the Neighborhood Protection Fund." Frank's face was a thundercloud of fury. "We paid you last month, Vinny. Business has been tough. You're killing us." Vinny let out a short, ugly laugh. "Tough? The place is full. Don't lie to me, old man." He leaned over the counter, his voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You think that gimpy arm of yours gets you a discount? You know the price of falling behind." Maria stepped forward, placing a protective hand on her husband's arm. Her voice was firm, laced with steel. "Please, Vinny, we're good people. We can't afford this anymore." Vinny's cold gaze shifted to her, his smirk twisting into a sneer. "Good people? You're a couple of has-beens playing soldier in a greasy spoon." His eyes flicked over to Sarah for a fraction of a second, dismissing her with a contemptuous glance before returning to Maria. "Now pay up, or my boys will have to redecorate." Sarah's jaw tightened. The casual cruelty, the predatory glee in his eyes, it was a desecration. This place, this haven, was built on honor. These men knew nothing of the word. The badge in her pocket felt heavy, a silent reminder of the oath she had sworn. To guard, to protect. The principle was the same, whether at a hallowed tomb or in a Chicago diner. One of Vinny's thugs, a burly man with a shaved head and a spiderweb tattoo on his elbow, slammed a meaty fist on the counter. The salt and pepper shakers jumped. "Enough with the chit-chat. Open the register, Grandma." Maria flinched at the insult but held her ground, her chin held high. Frank, however, had reached his limit. He took a step forward, his one good hand clenched into a white-knuckled fist. His voice, once a low growl, rose to a defiant roar. "You don't scare us, you worthless punk. I've seen real firefights. You think a bunch of street rats like you intimidate me?" The thug laughed, a brutish, mocking sound. He reached into his leather jacket and slowly pulled out a wooden baseball bat. tapping it menacingly against his open palm. Big words for a broken-down old soldier. That was the breaking point. The scrape of a chair against the floor cut through the tense silence. It was a small sound, but in that moment, it was as loud as a gunshot. Every head in the diner swiveled towards the corner booth. Seraphina Gallo was on her feet. She hadn't moved quickly, but with a deliberate grace that commanded attention. Her expression was unreadable, her stormy eyes fixed not on the thug with the bat, but directly on Vinny. Her voice was low, perfectly modulated, yet it carried to every corner of the room with an undeniable authority. "That's enough." Vinny spun around, his eyes narrowing as he took in the sight of the woman standing before him. He saw a slender figure, a pretty face, and what he perceived as foolish bravado. A slow, condescending smirk spread across his face. "Well, look what we have here," he drawled, his tone dripping with mockery. "Little lady wants to play hero." He gestured dismissively with his hand. "Sit down, sweetie. This is grown-up business. You don't want to get your pretty little face messed up." Sarah didn't move. She didn't even blink. The air around her seemed to grow still, charged with a quiet, dangerous energy. Her gaze was like steel, pinning Vinny in place. "I said," she repeated, her voice dropping even lower, becoming as cold and sharp as ice. "Back off. You're done here." The thugs chuckled, a wave of uneasy laughter rippling through them. But the laughter didn't quite reach their eyes. There was something in her stance, in the absolute certainty of her voice, that was unsettling. Vinny's smirk tightened, the scar on his cheek pulsing. He took a step towards her, invading her personal space, trying to intimidate her with his size. "You got a death wish, sweetheart? Do you have any idea who I am?" Sarah's hand moved, not toward the weapon, but into the pocket of her hoodie. She slowly withdrew her hand and opened her palm. Resting in it was a small, silver badge. It wasn't a police shield. It was something else, something few people ever saw up close. The light from the diner's fixtures glinted off the raised letters. "I am Sentinel Seraphina Gallo, of the tomb of the unknown soldier," she stated, her voice ringing with the weight of her office. "I have sworn an oath to protect what is honorable. And what you are doing in this place is a disgrace to that word." The diner was so quiet you could hear the hum of the refrigerator. Frank's eyes widened, a flicker of disbelief followed by dawning comprehension. Maria clutched her apron, a spark of hope igniting in her weary face. Hiding behind the counter, Tommy, who had been frozen in fear, fumbled for his phone, his thumb instinctively finding the record button. Vinny stared at the badge, then back at Sarah's face, and threw his head back with a roar of derisive laughter. "A tomb guard? Are you kidding me?" he scoffed, wiping a tear of mirth from his eye. "What? You polish statues for a living doll face? This ain't a parade ground, soldier girl. This is Chicago." He jerked his head at his two closest thugs. "Get her. And be gentle, boys. We don't want to break a nail." The two men lunged. One swung the baseball bat in a wide, clumsy arc. The other, pulling a wicked-looking knife, came in low. Sarah moved. It wasn't a brawl. It was a disassembly. She didn't meet the force of the bat head-on. Instead, she flowed around it, her body moving with a liquid economy of motion. Her hand shot out not to block but to guide. She caught the thug's wrist, using his own momentum to twist his arm back at an unnatural angle. A sharp crack echoed through the diner as his wrist broke. He screamed, the bat clattering uselessly to the floor. A precise, disabling jab to the pressure point below his ear sent him crumpling into a boneless heap. The knife wielder slashed at her. Sarah pivoted on the ball of her foot, the blade slicing through empty air where she had been a millisecond before. She caught his extended arm, locked his elbow joint, and with a swift, brutal motion, hyperextended it. The man shrieked as his arm bent the wrong way, the knife falling from his nerveless fingers. A follow-up sweep kick to his ankle sent him crashing to the floor beside his comrade. It had taken less than 5 seconds. The remaining 4 thugs froze, their bravado evaporating like mist. Vinny's jaw hung open, his sneer replaced by a look of stunned disbelief. "What the hell are you waiting for?" he shrieked, his voice cracking. "Take her down. 3 more charged at once, a chaotic wave of aggression. It was a fatal mistake. Sarah saw their attack not as a threat, but as a series of predictable patterns. She ducked under a wild haymaker, her hand snatching a heavy ceramic plate from a nearby table. She brought it up in a sharp, vertical arc, smashing it into the face of the second attacker, who staggered back, clutching his broken nose. The third tried to grab her from the side. She spun into him, driving her elbow into his solar plexus. The air rushed out of his lungs in a pained whoosh. As he doubled over, she brought her knee up, connecting solidly with his jaw. He collapsed, unconscious before he hit the ground. The last of the charging group, a hulking man with a bull neck, let out a roar and charged, head down. Sarah didn't retreat. She stood her ground, and at the last possible second, she dropped, using her leg to trip the charging giant. He went flying over her, his momentum carrying him headfirst into an empty booth with a sickening crunch of wood and bone. The diner was a tableau of carnage. Broken plates, overturned chairs, and 5 groaning or unconscious thugs littered the floor. In the center of it all stood Sarah, her breathing even, her gray hoodie barely disheveled. Her stormy eyes were fixed on the only one left standing. Vinny, the mob boss, his face pale with a mixture of fear and rage, fumbled inside his suit jacket and pulled out a switchblade. The blade snapped open with an audible click, but his hand was shaking violently. "You're dead," he hissed, his voice a reedy whisper. "You hear me? You're dead." Sarah took a calm step forward, her voice dropping to absolute zero. "You are done threatening these people. Drop the knife." Blinded by fury, Vinny lunged. It was a desperate, sloppy attack. Sarah sidestepped with contemptuous ease, her hand clamping down on his wrist like a vice. She applied pressure, twisting until his fingers went numb and the switchblade clattered to the floor. She drove her knee into his stomach, doubling him over, then yanked his arm behind his back and forced him face down onto the greasy linoleum, her knee planted firmly in the center of his spine. "Stay down," Sarah commanded, her voice leaving no room for argument. Maria let out a choked sob, her hand flying to her mouth, tears of relief and shock streaming down her face. Frank stared, his old Marine's eyes wide with a profound, almost reverent awe. Tommy, still filming, whispered into his phone's microphone, "Holy, she's a superhero." Sarah looked up from the pinned mob boss, her gaze finding Maria's. "Ma'am," she said, her voice calm and steady. "Call 911. Maria nodded, fumbling for the diner's phone with trembling hands. "This is the Veterans Haven in Little Italy," she managed, her voice shaking but clear. "We've been attacked by mobsters. One person, a woman," she stopped them all. "Please, send help." The wail of sirens grew from a distant cry to a deafening roar within minutes. 2 Chicago PD officers burst through the door, their hands on their holsters, their faces set for a major confrontation. They skidded to a halt, their expressions slackening into pure bewilderment at the scene before them. 5 thugs incapacitated on the floor. The infamous Vinnie Moretti pinned under the knee of a slender woman in a gray hoodie. A crowd of patrons staring in stunned silence. What happened here?" The younger officer, Daniels, stammered. Sarah stood up, releasing Vinny, but keeping one foot planted firmly on his back. She showed the officers her Toongar badge. "Sentinel Seraphina Gallo, U.S. Army. I apprehended these individuals for assault and extortion. They are in your custody." The older cop, a grizzled sergeant named Lopez, raised a skeptical eyebrow, then his eyes focused on the badge. "A Tomb Guard? Hell of a sure leave you're having, Sentinel." Tommy stepped forward, his fear replaced by a teenager's excited energy. He held out his phone. "I got the whole thing on video, sir. All of it. How they came in, how they threatened my grandparents, and how she took them all down." Lopez took the phone, his eyes widening as he watched the footage. He let out a low whistle. "This is solid gold. We've been trying to nail Moretti on extortion for years, but no one would testify. You just gift-wrapped him for us, kid." The officers cuffed Vinny and his day's crew, hauling them to their feet and marching them out to the waiting squad cars. As he was dragged past, Vinny shot a look of pure venom at Sarah. This isn't over, you witch. You'll pay for this. Sarah met his glare without flinching. Keep talking, she said coolly. It's not my face that's pressed against the pavement. The moment the last police car pulled away, the diner exploded into applause and cheers. Frank threw his arms around Sarah in a bear hug, his voice thick with emotion. Daughter, I have no words. You saved this place. You saved our family. Maria stepped forward, her hands trembling as she took Sarah's. You're one of us, Seraphina. A protector through and through. She reached in her apron pocket and pulled out a small, tarnished silver pin, a combat medic badge. This was mine, from a Gulf. It's for those who run toward the danger to shield others. She pressed it firmly into Sarah's palm. You've more than earned it. We protectors have to stick together. Sarah's throat felt tight. She looked at the badge, a symbol of a different kind of guardianship, and closed her fingers around it. Thank you, ma'am. I was just doing what was right. The crowd outside the diner had swelled, drawn by the sirens and the spectacle of Vinnie Moretti's crew being loaded into police cars. Whispers turned to shouts as the story spread. That woman in there took them all down. She's some kind of special forces. Sarah was not accustomed to praise or attention. Her duty was performed in silence, for an audience of ghosts and history. The weight of their gratitude was heavier than any pack she had ever carried. As the police began taking statements, she saw her chance. She gave Frank and Maria a final, meaningful nod and slipped out the back door, melting into the city's afternoon anonymity. She walked for hours, following the lazy path of the Chicago River as the city lights began to sparkle on its dark surface. The adrenaline faded, leaving behind a profound sense of clarity. She hadn't just defended a diner. She had defended a principle. That night, Tommy's video detonated online. It was raw, shaky, and utterly compelling. The initial title, Crazy Diner Brawl, was quickly replaced by 1,000 others as the story went viral. Who is the guardian angel of Little Italy? To whom Sentinel humiliates Chicago mob. By morning, it had millions of views. Seraphina Gallo was a hero, her face plastered across news sites and social media feeds. The Veterans Haven became a landmark overnight, a pilgrimage site for veterans, locals, and tourists, all wanting to stand in the spot where honor made its stand. Sarah saw none of it. She was on an early train, speeding back towards the quiet solemnity of Arlington. The city skyline faded behind her, a distant, glittering memory. In her pocket, her Tomb Guard badge rested on one side. On the other, she felt the solid weight of Maria's combat medic badge. She thought of her father, the man who had taught her that duty wasn't about the uniform you wear, but the conviction you carry. It wasn't just about standing guard over the honored dead. It was about standing up for the living. The skyline vanished, but its glow remained on the horizon. Sarah whispered to the reflection in the window, a promise to herself and to the silent soldiers she served. Honor isn't just at the tomb. It's wherever you choose to make a stand. Thanks for joining us for this incredible story. Heroes come in all shapes and sizes, and they all deserve our utmost respect. What did you think of Sarah's actions? Let us know in the comments below, and please, comment respect for everyone sharing their thoughts. If you believe courage like this deserves to be seen, share this story, give it a like, and subscribe for more. Stay strong and stay true.